Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vanourney. Today we are chatting with Frederik Louis Hviid. He is the director of The Quiet Ones, opening in theaters and on digital February 21st. Frederik, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Thank you. My pleasure.
The Quiet Ones is based on the true story. It's based on the largest bank heist in Denmark history. What was it about the story that attracted you to the project?
I mean, I remember watching it on the news back in 2008, seeing, the type of crime that had suddenly arrived in Denmark. It wasn't something that we'd ever seen at this point. Um, and it kind of stood out, I think, in a lot of people's minds because it was successful and nobody got hurt during it. And it was incredibly well planned and incredibly well and very violently executed. So it was like it was a way, a losing of innocence in a way that I thought was very interesting and what attracted me to the project in the beginning of it. And the fact that it was carried out in the middle of the financial crisis, I thought was like so ironic that it almost lended itself too well to the big screen. So I just, crossed my fingers that nobody else would do it before I could get my hands into it.
I've read that you did research on prepping for the film. You actually talked to one of the people. Was it just one of the people that was
Yeah,
actually involved
yeah,
with the actual heist? What was that?
yeah.
Walk me through that process and what it was like getting the inside scoop from him.
It was incredibly rewarding. I don't think we could have made this film without him. He was with us very early on when we started to write the script, all the way up until we started to shoot. I was very careful not to make a film that was kind of like a reproduction of what I've seen in other films. I wanted it to feel real and authentic. So you kind of need to go to the source. You needed to go to the expert in a way, right? Um, and he was incredibly helpful in terms of just getting all the little details right in terms of how do you buy a gun, how do you steal a car, how do you ABC, all of the things that you need to get going if you want to be a successful bank robber, but also telling us a little bit about, how does the life look as a career criminal? What does it entail? What are the costs?
Uh, I've read in your director's notes that while the overall story is about this bank heist, when you break
Mm,
it down and to the basics, it's the film's about pursuit, right? The pursuit of money, the pursuit of dreams,
yeah,
pursuit of what drives people. Would you like to expand on that?
yeah. I think it was just like I asked him very early on, like, why did you do it, man? And he was like, I wanted to see if I could. And I just thought that it was such an interesting answer because I think I would have expected him to say I needed the money. Maybe even I needed the money to go buy something that I could understand, like buy the operation for my, sick mother's new whatever. But it wasn't anything like that. I mean, they had money. It was not about, securing themselves financially. It was about him having lost what could be his dream of becoming, a prize fighter. That idea had gone down the toilet. So now he needed to win in something else. And it became, winning the biggest robbery in Danish history. And I just felt like I could empathize with the idea of wanting to become somebody. I couldn't sympathize with the way that he did it, but I could empathize with that idea, with that train of thought in a way. And I thought that was a unique take of, you know, of making a
I want to talk.
heist film.
I want to talk about the amazing opening sequence in your film. There's a scene right at the beginning of the film. It's all one shot. Uh, it's
Yeah.
not a tracking shot, but I'm always amazed to talk to filmmakers who choreograph these sequences, right? Because if one little thing goes wrong, you got to start over and do it again. Talk about
Yeah.
putting that scene together. How many times did you have to
Oh,
do
oh
it?
yeah.
What were the challenges?
What were the challenges? I think the majority of the challenges was I mean, the practical challenges of it, because this is, excuse me, this film is made, I would suppose, seen from a US standpoint, for a quite, of a modest budget. So we had like, but our ambitions were equally as big, but we had to like figure out how to pull them off within those limitations, right? And I think one of my forehead was the fact that I only had three front windows. I could only replace it three times. So I could only, or four times maybe. So I could only do it, I could only film it four times. I needed to have it in one of those four. So I started to rehearse very early on. I think it was as soon as it was bright, the sun was up enough to we could rehearse. So I think we started at 7 o'clock to rehearse, and we hadn't shot anything until it was 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We had just rehearsed. And then I think we felt ready to do it. And then everything screwed up, and we kind of had to change the windscreen, and then everything screwed up again. And that was when I was starting to really doubt if we could pull this off, because now I only had two tries left. And if I didn't get it, I wouldn't have an opening on my film. So we did it one more time, and then third 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 try was the charm. But it really took a lot of preparation and a lot of ice in our veins. It felt like a little bit of carrying out a robbery ourselves. A lot of planning and a lot of composure.
It's an amazing shot. Uh,
Thank you.
the film's full of action. There's a lot of tension in the film, and I'm curious to talk to you as a director. There's different directors do different things, right, to build tensions in films and tension in individual scenes. Some people heavily storyboard sequences.
Mm.
So there's some directors that will build the tension in editing. The
Yeah.
score sometimes it helps build the tension. Sometimes it's a combination of everything. I'm curious for you on this film specifically, what are the keys, the secrets, the tricks that you use personally to build tension, not only within individual scenes, but over the course of the film as as the film goes on and you're trying to create this tension building to the final. Talk about your
Yeah.
process.
I think by starting out the film by showing what can happen if things go wrong, and that these people are, they make mistakes as well, and when things go wrong, it goes a whole lot of wrong very quickly. And I think that the idea of things can go wrong, putting that in people's minds from the very first second, I think is a very helpful tool for me as a director, because now people will anticipate stuff going wrong. Um, and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy, lighting a lot of fuses at the same time, making our audience look for when is the bomb gonna go off, figuratively speaking, right? Um, and I think by showing that these people they're human, they make mistakes, they do get stressed out, they do have hidden agendas, they do have a lot of, internal conflict. Um, and they're not superheroes. I mean, I think that that can make a lot of suspense just by putting them in a very volatile situation, as a robbery is, where there's also police is also coming after you, and when the plan is not going as it should, then what do you do? And we just, throughout the film, we set up a lot of stuff. Some you might see, some you maybe won't. um but we set up a lot of things that you should be on the lookout for when the robbery starts to be executed. And hopefully, I think that's lighting as many fuses as possible, I think, is key to making good suspense.
It's almost time to wrap up. Before we go, I'm always curious to talk
Okay.
to filmmakers what their influences were, right? When I'm watching The Quiet Ones, I
Yeah.
definitely Get Heat vibes from the great Michael Mann film Heat. I'm curious,
Yeah.
what were the films that you watched growing up that influenced you, made you want to be a filmmaker, and maybe helped even influence this film, The Quiet Ones?
Yeah. I think I was super inspired by William Friedkin. I mean, Sorcerer. And I mean, talking about suspense and tension, I think that film maybe is one of my. I always go back to that film maybe once, twice a year. Very inspired by The Red Circle from Jean-Pierre Melville, A Place Beyond the Pines. I think a film called Bullhead, a Belgian film called Bullhead, an Italian film called Gomorrah. Different types of films for. I mean, it also depended a little bit about was it, I watched different films with my actors than I watched with my DP, and so. But I think my overall list was like over 50 films that I kind of distributed out to people, various people on the cast to see and listen to.
Well, it's an amazing film. It's been such a pleasure talking to you today. The film is called The Quiet Ones. It opens in theaters and on digital February 21st. Frederick, thanks so much for chatting with us today on Cherry the Geek TV.
Thank you, thank you, Masha.
Thank you.